Hey, welcome to another fun-filled and three's a crowd episode of In the Chute.
Evidently, I'm the crowd.
What do you got, Kalen?
How much of the ranching business, not the lifestyle, did you have to learn on your own? Mom, it's going to be a little different because she had to kind of learn all of it. But you grew up this way, Dad. How much of the business aspect of it did you have to learn on your own versus kind of be taught it by grandpa or somebody else?
Well, it depends. I mean, the frugality of it and, buying low, selling high. I mean,
Doesn't
that's
exist.
it. That's always been evasive. So it's always buying high,
It's a
selling low.
myth.
Yeah. Uh, but there's a lot of details that as a kid growing up, you're not really got your fingers on,
No.
and you're there, and grandpa or dad's talking about it, but you're not really that much of a part of it. So it's one of those things where trial by fire, you know what you might have to do, but okay, now it's time to do it. Oh, I got to learn this, so I got to figure out what I got to do. So that's kind of a little bit of doing it, and you make some mistakes. They're really kind of minor mistakes, really, but speediness of when to start talking about contracts, when to start talking about let's get some hay in here. And you can do it too early. You can miss a market, and again, it can bite you. Sometimes waiting on hay, which is counterintuitive. Sometimes waiting on hay and not getting it till a little bit later, where people are always wanting to sell it for high, and they're not getting it sold, and you agree to it. Now you just cost yourself some money.
Right.
So, but the insecurity of not having that hay laid in is, that's
Huge.
that's a huge
Yeah.
problem too, or potential problem. That what if I can't get the hay? Now I'm going to spend more than I would in the spring when the price was this, and now that's where it's at because
There's none
you had it.
around.
Yeah, there's none around. You don't have a gold calendar and or a magic 8 ball or a crystal ball or anything like that in the spring to tell you what the year's going to really be like. Going to dry up? Could we get grasshoppers? And I think the answer is yeah,
All of
in
the above.
all of the above, but you don't know it, and that's all that drives the price of something up, a commodity that you need to purchase. So some of it's a guess, some of it is kind of looking ahead and seeing what you think is going to happen. It all depends on what you're doing with your herds. Are we going to make a lot of culls this year? That kind of stuff. Are we going to try to build this herd? Are we going to save some heifers? Those are all decisions that you're making and thinking about early on. You're for us. I try to do that probably a year out. We talk about these things. What's going to happen in the future? What could we do? What do you think we need to do? Just like our direct sales on our beef, we were talking about that about a year before we started really doing it,
Right.
and getting the logistics down of it. How are we going to do it? What do we need to do? Because you don't have a second chance to do it right the first time. And you send out a piece of a meat in the form of somebody spending a lot of money, and you screw it up. That word gets out there too. So you want to do things right, and sometimes we over plan, but sometimes it's the timing of it. You can't just decide you're going to do something in December when you should have been starting to do it the previous January, February.
Your dad never overplans.
I think that was part of a draft episode that we did recently.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So what about some of the intricacies of like taxes, recording stuff and the paperwork and all that organization? What about that in terms of learning that aspect of it?
Well, your brother would say that we are hoarders, and that would include receipts and things like that. So that's not a bad thing. You just keep everything, and then you can figure out what you really didn't have to.
Well, and realistically, that's enough. You
Yeah,
hear the dogs. They're wrestling.
Shepherds of America.
One of the things that I didn't have the luxury of getting was any kind of guidance about when to do stuff, and hey, we got to do this then. That's all in everybody's head. You just keep that in your noggin. And I went,
It'll help them
okay,
for the next generation, that's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you know what? Where do you put that? It used to be, and we still keep a daily diary. By we, I
Right.
mean mom's really doing the
I'm
most.
the one doing all that. Yeah.
She's the one writing in the diary now that she's living with me here at the ranch. It's awesome.
And I'll
but
say, hey, have you written in the diary for a few days?
No.
Oh, no, you can do that. Oh, thanks.
but there's no index, there's no where you can go with like a daily planner
You
that's
have to
done the
search.
right way.
Yeah.
You have to search. And so now I've got a document on the computer for mom and for you guys. If something happens to me, that, hey, start looking at this time of year, start looking
Mhm.
at this, start doing this. And this is when this, I mean, I've got it all listed out chronologically that, January 1 or January 2, this is what you need to do.
I was cleaning out the ranch email this morning and kind of organizing it, and I happened to notice that was the document that was shared with the Hashknife Ranch email, and I was like, "Oh, yep, I've seen that before."
Yeah. So I've tweaked that. That's changed. There's been some deadlines that have changed on that, not from
Mhm.
us, but like from
Like the butcher. or
yeah,
something like
butchers,
that.
things like that,
Yeah.
And another thing, I had lost or couldn't find your grandpa's recipe for finishing a beef.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
I
thought it was the
found it.
important one, the
No, no,
prime
no,
rib for a
no,
second.
no. That one's sacred. It's in several places. But what he was doing to finish a beef. And I thought, I wish I had that. And when we were
We were
cleaning
cleaning
out
out the barn, getting rid of like that old freezer that was in there and some other stuff.
Of course,
And I
let's not put
found-
it in a file cabinet. Let's leave it
I
out for
found-
the
no,
nature to take care of it.
I found a piece of paper. Was it in a plastic protection page?
I don't think so.
I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
it wasn't. It was just laying.
And it was laying down on the ground behind a pallet or the freezer. I think it was on a nail on the wall. And I said, Brandon, look at this. I think you've been looking for this for a while. And he's like, oh, that's it.
So
That's the shit that drives me nuts.
so I grabbed that and it gave me a really good basis.
Yeah.
And I've tweaked his feeding schedule.
Yeah,
quite a
of course.
bit,
But it was a good start.
but it was a really good start. Yeah. It's not, warming them up and so, yeah, that was good. It was very good.
It was funny.
But it's like, okay, I am not doing this to somebody else.
Thank you.
Because that's no, I mean, that's kind of stuff
Thank
that drives me nuts. But now I've got overdone. I've got a
Yeah,
Google
heifer.
Sheets that has finishing steers different than finishing heifers, how
I'm
much
okay
per
with that.
day, warming them up, what feeds I'm using, different feeds. And if I'm using cob or a pelleted feed, here's a schedule for this, here's a schedule for that. I mean, to me, it's like, if you're doing it, why
it's
not put
good.
it on paper and just save it?
Right.
Right.
Or Google.
Yeah. But that's a lot of changes that I've done that was never done before.
Will
But we've got the
hopefully be-
opportunity to do it with a computer. It's
Yeah,
easy
technology available
Yeah.
to do it.
because everything that I've got from previous is all handwritten.
All
Right.
files
It all
that you
everything's-
happen across,
Yeah.
not that you know where they're at.
right. So that's a big deal. It's
Yeah.
very helpful that way. And a lot of recording, okay, this is the wormer that we used on the horses in the
Last
spring
time,
and the
yeah.
fall and so that you're rotating your wormers and keeping track of it, because I can't remember what I did in the spring on the wormer.
Right.
And I'm
It's been
supposed to
6
remember that.
months. Why would you?
Right. And so now I got to go buy some wormer because we've had some really good cold weather. We've killed all the bot eggs. It's time to worm them. And we've got some fillies in the corral. I've got a stallion in the corral and a gelding that I've been riding, occasionally on some of these cattle. And once we preg test, we'll worm them all so that they've got their winter wormer and, they're going to maintain some weight. Everything's going to be happy. So getting the right wormer so we don't create some, resistance with the parasites. That's a big, important deal. And so writing that stuff down, rotating, knowing what you've used is a good tool.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the things that you've learned the most with the ranching business aspect is continuity and being able to use records effectively so that you can make sure that it's easier in the future.
Yeah, it really is. And there's always things that, you're changing or you're doing a little bit different with the animals themselves, not so much with the horses, because that's been something that's, there's little change in that because you're not feeding a horse out for butchering, right? I mean, there's some things there, but the cattle portion of that for certain, there's been a lot more of trying this, changing that, and recording the results. What not to do is just as important as to what to do.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that's been something there too. And everything we do, I try to document. And that might be just the science nerd geek in me, with degrees in what we did. That is, it's good scientific
and-
method.
Yeah, but it's also much easier to keep track when you can open up a spreadsheet
Yeah.
and you can add to it.
Right. And I always
Yeah.
try to date stuff. I mean, you're making a log. You're doing a just a notebook of what
Yeah.
do you do your lab book, right?
Yep.
So
I mean,
it's
I'd agree with that though, because even the document I have open every time we do these recordings, it's changed over the last 2 years because at first it was more ad hoc and now it's more systematic. And then for next year, for 2023, I have a schedule already established for the various videos that we have in regular production and what topics I want to do each week so that we can try and match them up to a season, with calving
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
sure.
and branding and all that. And so I can tell you from the digital perspective in terms of the social media and stuff, even the last 2 or 3 years, it's gotten more, like you said, learning from what
streamlined.
not to do and being
Right.
able to make it more efficient of plug and play of exactly what we want to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. No, it's a big deal.
That is lessons with the ranch business. So with
I'm
that,
learning something new every day.
we'll put that conversation out to pasture.